everybody, it's Doom here, and today we are going to be building, painting, and programming one of my most advanced animatronics I've ever made. And not only does this guy look super cool, but he actually attacks you, and he's super fast. So make sure to watch until the very end when I do a full-on demo of him and show you all of his glory. So without further ado, let's get right to it. The first step was to make a mechanism which would actually make our animatronic move, and that of course means using the pneumatic cylinder and using all of our techniques to make it have a full range of movement, having it go lean forward and also have the arm shoot up. But I didn't really want to focus on the mechanism as much in this video. I did have a lot of doing something and then it didn't work out, so it was really hard to record that kind of part. But if you do want to learn how to make the most simple animatronic mechanism, I would highly recommend you guys go check out another DIY animatronic video I made over a year back, but this is basically the most simple pneumatic animatronic you'll ever have because it's just a simple piston going up and down. But after a lot of trial and error and a lot of brainstorming, I finally came up with this mechanism and I showed it off on a live stream.
But basically when you push this forward, this is what happens when the cylinder extends. The arm also goes up.
Then we used air hoses to connect our 5-way 2-position solenoid valve to our pneumatic cylinder and then to the air compressor, and then, and only then, we could try it out. Now it was time to foam fill our mask, and at first I used this red great stuff, but this actually didn't end up expanding near enough. So instead I used this Sika Post-Fix expanding foam, and I learned this from the Psychotic Circus of Savannah, so make sure to go check them out. But it's actually really cool how this expanding foam works. Basically, you take the liquid from one side, and then you take the liquid from the other side, and when you combine the two liquids together, an awesome chemical reaction occurs with the power of science, which creates the foam to expand. And it expands a lot, and very fast. After letting it sit for a bit, I stuck the mask onto the mechanism, and as you can see here, he is looking great. Unfortunately, because of the eye holes, you could see the foam through the mask, but I will definitely fix that later in the video. On the other side here, you can see that the foam expanded quite a bit, and it is also hardened now. But he's not even close to finished yet, and before we even do the clothing, we actually have to give him a hand. And to say the least, the current hands I have look like trash. So now it's time to give this hand a repaint. Let's get right to it. Now I'm using a rust brown spray paint to give it sort of a dirty, rotten type look. Of course, the zombie hand would not be complete without some scars and blood splatters, and I also used some of the blood to cover up some mistakes I had earlier on. And once all the paint was dry, I hot glued our hand onto the PVC forearm. But wait a second, you might be wondering why I'm only making one hand. Well, if you haven't noticed already, our zombie here has been through a lot, to say the very least. I mean, his insides are literally outsides. But because of this, I thought it would make a lot of sense if one of his arms was ripped off, and not in a pretty way either. So for that to work, we had to make some sort of stump where the arm was severed, and I actually had the perfect thing. As many of you probably already know, the dollar store carries lots of these severed limbs every single year, and now I'm finally going to have a use for this one. But first, since we just want the stump, we're gonna have to get rid of that foot. Now the foot was off, but we still had a big problem. Just like the hand, the paint job on this one is trash. So we're gonna do another repaint, but this time there's just gonna be a little bit more blood. It's crazy what a little bit of brown spray paint can do, because this already looks 10 times better, but I think it can look a lot grosser. And well, that's the end goal, of course. After I finished painting the stump, I attached it to the mechanism off camera using the same expanding foam we used earlier, and in a few days I'll be back to put some clothing on him, and also at the legs.
A few moments later.
Alright, so now it's time for our next big step, which is actually giving our zombie clothes. Because unless we want him looking like the zombies from 28 years later, yeah, we're definitely gonna have to give him some clothes. So the best way I would recommend getting clothes for any DIY animatronic is just to go to your local thrift store, because you would be able to get a good dress shirt, good jeans, and some good boots for less than $20. So first we're going to add our shirt, because we don't have any legs yet at the moment. But before we add our shirt, actually, we do have to make sure that he's not completely skinny, because it would not be realistic at all for a zombie to have PVC pole-sized arms. And how will we do that, you may ask? Pool noodles. Alright, it's time to put on the shirt. As you can see, the idea is that his arm was ripped off along with the clothing, but if that was the case, then these clothes should definitely be bloodstained. So let's go ahead and fix that right now with just the tiniest little bit of blood. I also added these pins off camera to attach the latex to the shirt, and this is just so the mechanism stays hidden. And now the upper body is completely finished, so we can now move on to our next step, the legs. I first used my saw to cut out 4 of these slanted 2x4s, and then I doubled them up to create 2 solid legs. Then I drilled a hole in each one of the boots large enough for the 2x4s to fit through it. Please do not ask how long this took. Next, I screwed the 2x4 legs into a plywood base, slid on each of the boots. I once again used our pool noodles to shape out the legs. And just like that, we had some pretty sturdy looking legs. But this wasn't enough for me. I wanted to take this to the next level. So I added some duct tape and a kneecap on the front leg. Alright, enough of joking around, it's time to add the pants. And now, since the pants were finished, we could finally combine the upper half with the bottom half. And this is when it really comes together. For our final touches, I added a belt, but we're also going to be doing some other stuff, like filling in those eye holes, and I'm just going to use a Sharpie for this. Moving on to our last and definitely not least important step, we have actually programming our animatronic with the PicoBoo controller. These are super simple prop controllers you can easily learn how to use just by pausing right here. And for this, I'll be using the PicoBoo AC, which is the easiest PicoBoo to use because it requires the least amount of wiring. You can get this controller and more from Fright Props, but if you're living in Canada, I would highly recommend ordering from Fright Ideas, as it will cost you less for shipping. But here I am plugging in my light that will be flashing on the animatronic, and here's me plugging in the solenoid valve, which basically controls all the movement. And once I press the red record button, I can just start spamming buttons, and it will record whatever I do. I also wired a motion sensor to the controller off camera. Now what was left was finding some good zombie audio and finding a good speaker. Oh, and also dragging him all the way down to my backyard for a demo video. Anyway, that's going to be it for the build, and I hope you guys enjoy. There he was, guys. This is my largest pneumatic animatronic I've ever made. It's my first full-size one. As you can see, the nun over there is just half of a body, but her body goes all the way up. I didn't make a video on that one because that one was a while ago, but I have to say this is definitely my favorite one that I've made, and I'm just super happy how it turned out. But that's going to be about it for today's video. I hope you guys all enjoyed, and if you did, please make sure to subscribe and also share this video. It would mean a ton. And make sure to tell me your thoughts about this guy down in the comments below. And with that, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys all in the next video. Doom, out.